Well, several lawsuits working their way through the courts to prevent election fraud and voter suppression. In Ohio, a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order barring voter intimidation activities. In Arizona, a new law making it a crime for political operatives to collect and deliver mail-in ballots filled out by voters was challenged, and we just found out a few moments ago that it is being upheld, so no one can deliver a ballot for you there in most circumstances. And in North Carolina, a judge ordered that any voters who had their names removed from the rolls within the last 90 days were restored. Richard St. Paul is a criminal defense attorney and a Republican election observer. We'll talk about that. Carrie Salage is a former Bronx assistant district attorney, criminal defense attorney, and Democratic member of the Nassau County Legislature. It's great to have you both. It's really interesting to kind of take a look at, what is the appropriate legal behavior around Election Day. And Richard, I'm curious, you're going to be going down to Philadelphia. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and why.
Sure. So part of the operation will include a whole roving attorneys who will be called to trouble location. And what's a trouble polling location? That's a location where somebody's electioneering, where they're campaigning within 100 feet of the ballot. The polling site.
Sure.
That's also people who they may say, I wasn't allowed to vote. Okay, so a lot of people think that the operation for Democrats and Republicans is to stop people from voting. No, you want to encourage voting. So part of our operation is going to make sure that people under HAVA, Help America Vote Act, signed by President Bush, that everyone is allowed to vote. So no, you cannot be turned away in this election. You can be issued a provisional ballot, but everybody has the opportunity to cast the ballot.
Carrie, I'm going to get your thoughts in a second, but Richard, I'm just curious, going back on your previous experience, what do you notice when you're out at different sites? What happened?
Here's what I most notice. Okay, people who are campaigning within 100, so they'll hold up signs,
right,
vote, advocate for positions within 100 feet of the polling place, or sometimes they'll go in with, vote for Trump or vote for Clinton, T-shirts, buttons. That stuff is not allowed. That's passive electioneering.
Okay, wait a minute, Carrie. So if someone wants to wear their Make America Great hat or their Hillary Clinton shirt, they should rethink their fashion on voting day. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, voters have certain rights, and they have the right not to be intimidated or receive unwanted messages within 100 feet of a polling site. So if they're wearing a Trump shirt or a Hillary Clinton shirt, they must reverse that shirt because they're about to enter a polling site where they cannot provide any political messages.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might be surprised about that, because if there's one thing we've seen over this election period that both sides we can agree upon is a lot of swag.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right? You got a lot of T-shirts and baseball hats, but that's a no-go when you go to vote.
But the Make America Great Again doesn't really advocate for a particular
because
candidate.
it doesn't have Trump's name?
It doesn't have Trump's name.
Okay, but to be most cautious, Carrie, you might just want to dress in black.
Yeah.
Something neutral.
That's correct. And at polling sites, you'll have representatives from the local Board of Elections and other independent, nonpartisan agencies that might advise people to, not carry such political messages. But the important message is that if you see something, say something. This has been one of the most emotional, intense elections we've seen in years. And let's make sure that, the rhetoric doesn't encourage people to take the law into their own hands. And let's just have a fair and, effective election.
We certainly want that. We don't want to be reporting on, a bunch of issues at polling sites. But I am curious how you balance, Richard, voter suppression versus voter fraud, and how there's a line between the two of those, and we do need to make sure that that line stays there. How do you do that?
So voter fraud, a lot of people think that people are going into an election polling place and voting twice. Very rarely happens. Look, when you're in a polling place, you have poll workers, poll watchers, surveillance video typically outside if it's in some type of public place. In New York City, you have a police officer at every polling location. There's a lot of activity in a polling place. For somebody to walk in a polling place to commit fraud is very unlikely. Now, in terms of voter intimidation, that happens outside.
Right.
Don't vote for Hillary Clinton. Don't vote for Donald Trump. They're calling them names. That type of stuff happens. Again, it should be 100 feet from the polling place, but lines of people on both back and forth, pro-Hillary, pro-Trump, outside the polling place.
Carrie, we've seen lines to vote that are longer than 100 feet. So there's a chance that you could be in line and you could have somebody nearby, but you're 100 feet away from the entrance. What do you think is something that every voter should know, besides the fashion tips, which we appreciate, when they go in to vote? What are part of our rights when it comes to voting?
It's a great question. Voters should know that they are entitled to a provisional ballot if their name is not on the voting
So I go in,
roll.
and this happened to me, by the way. You go in and your name's not there, and they say, well, you're not there. I should be able to still vote.
Yes, you should be. In New York State, you're entitled to have a judge rule on that. But voters, again, should know that they cannot be turned away from the polls. No one could ask them, oh, we need to see your phone bill in order to vote. There are some implicit forms of voter intimidation that we will see outside the polls that, you know, we as people who care about our democracy want to make sure that we don't see that happening.
And Richard, anything you'd add to that quickly?
Yeah, really quick, is that if you are denied the opportunity to vote, talk to a poll worker or go to the Board of Elections and tell them that you were denied the right. Do not walk away from that polling site without casting your provisional ballot. And also, if you're a first-time voter, under HAVA, Help America Vote Act, you may be asked for your phone bill or something that verifies your address.
If you're a very first voter.
If you're a very first-time voter.
But that's good to know. Okay,
yes.
And we're going to be talking to a millennial panel next, so that's a good heads up for any of our young voters that are out there. Richard, Carrier, great to have you both. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see what happens.
Thank you.